Hey everyone, yeah, I'm still live and kicking. Yes, it's been a long time since the last thing I put out, and I'm sorry about that. And you can guess that means that we've been developing in the background. And yes, we've been developing in the background. We haven't been able to hit that marketing phase quite yet. And there are three reasons why, but we came out way better than we started. And so just let me walk through this so I can make sense of it. One of the systems that we rely on heavily, they got a lot of funding for a newer system and they revamped what they did. And when they did, instead of creating their new architecture in parallel to their existing architecture and then working people over, they got their new architecture up and going and then just dropped the old architecture. They said, okay, guys, you got to move. They gave us a deadline date of like a week. And it was like, what? And so we had to build in the new arena. I guess a lot of people don't build much stuff, so they don't think about it from that point of view. But here we build a lot of stuff. So we had a lot of re-engineering to do. We had to reinvent the wheel. So that was hard. It took a long time, but admittedly, the new architecture is dramatically better than the old, and it allows us to see and grapple with things a whole lot better than before. And some of that's a necessary thing. Like, for instance, we like to drop voicemails. Whoops, sorry about that. We like to drop voicemails, but there are systems that notice when AI is navigating through DTMF and IVR. And so what we had to do was build the bigger, better chunk of control for that. And if I show that to you at some point, it'll blow your mind how many elements there are to emulating a human as AI, on navigation from call to call to call through companies. We did it, but it's crazy the kind of screenshots I'd be showing you for the instructions it takes to get there. Having said that, we did get there. We're one of the few companies that navigates quite well through to voicemail without getting lost or trapped in the system. Now, having said that, that's one of the elements is we had a lot of rebuilding to do with a core structure component, but it's better now than it was before. Another component was when we tried to do the AI manager element where we can call in and have it go and create the websites for us, it would run off the rails. We thought we had created combinations of the tools tight enough for it to just be able to go with the flow in a common sense way, and it couldn't. Once it would make an assumption that, of course, we want this, then it would say, oh, well, then you'll want that and that and that and that, and it'll go off in this direction. And we're like, no, come back to center and go that way, or go that way. And it just really kept going off the rails. And we said, all right, let's put to the side the whole voice control thing for now. And let's come back to how do we simplify the command center itself, the control center for all the websites itself. And then we can reattach the manager, but we really do need to simplify. We have to get things down to a level where if you're going to do A, you will do B, C, D, E, and F. I mean, you just will. And in cases where there's a cost component, and you're going to redo, then you're going to rerun some of those costs, but it'll be okay because you're just moving forward anyway. So we just had some rethinking to do, and we did, and we built that in. And that is really nice right now. I mean, it is really nice. Having said that, here's the third thing. And this is huge because very few companies on the internet have anything like this right now. We basically built a theme extractor. How many of you guys know Lovable, right? You can go to Lovable and describe a website and it'll build it. And it builds it by doing what? Looking up other kinds of websites to get ideas. And then from those ideas, it can compose, So you can say what you want it to have, like a glassmorphic, futuristic, tech-leaning, light background template. And it'll kind of understand what you're saying. And it'll have studied tons of templates. And so it can kind of build in that image. Now, what we built was a theme extractor. it goes and looks at websites that we would point at and say, I like that and that and that. Can you glean off of that what to build that we can use? Because we have our own CMS, so we have our own sections. So when we look at a website, we can't grab every section they have just the way it is all the time. But we can look to these websites for inspiration for different front ends. And so we built that as an extractor. And that's cool because there are literally millions of website templates out there. And we made it so streamlined that it takes us at the most 4 hours, closer to 2, but we would assume 4 hours for a stack, just being smart here. We should assume 3 hours. But we can take any websites, convert them to our CMS, make everything work with really no question in about 4 hours, with no missing components, with no misconnected anything, with no issues where if you hit a video play button, it goes to YouTube to play the video instead of staying on the site. Everything always opens in Lightbox. The font, awesome icons always work. Everything always looks good. Page speed is always maximized to quite decent. You know, every site's going to be different. It's going to show a different score, but really, really nice. So this is crazy because we build in a lot of pre-checks, actions, post-checks, and corrective actions all through that structure in order to make it possible for us to next be able to create the payloads that allow us to attach it to voice, which is coming, but that's okay because we don't need it to launch. As we launch and people want it, it'll come live anyway, naturally, because it's on the way. Having said that, there's 2 main systems that we're launching out there. One of them is outsourcing an AI department for monthly payments where guys will pay recurring and have access to their own AI crews that they can set up to operate the way they want. Now, I know I was describing it before, but that is way done and way working well. So even aside from the websites, when somebody gets on a subscription, then each employee they have that they get on a subscription for, it's literally a payment per employee, okay? Or if somebody wants to get it personally, they can get it personally to be their own assistant. Then it comes with 7 assistants that work together. They all have different names, different voices. They pass the call back and forth depending on the need. But one of them schedules, like on a calendar, schedules meetings and alerts everyone. One of them does quick web search lookups. One of them does deep research. One of them does advanced deep research. One of them composes emails. One of them updates the knowledge base in the background. So anytime you make changes to whether it's your company or the information you just want your team to know and operate from, they all operate from that knowledge base. So they all know what your business is all about. So this knowledge base guy, we just call him and say, hey, we put in a new knowledge base, make that the default now for everyone. And it goes ahead and does it. And then finally, the last one, well, that's really the manager of these guys. He's the one you call, or she. And you talk to this guy and tell it what you want done, and everything else happens from there. Whoops, 7. So anytime somebody decides to order up a crew like that, anytime somebody decides to outfit their employees, they're going to be able to make their employees 10 to 20 times more productive and reduce their sweat, their elbow grease. Make it easier for them to do the job better, faster, turn in more work with less effort. And so when they order and they get their email for subscription, they call in, they authenticate, and then they describe what they want the main assistant to be like, whether that's for inbound customer service, whether it's for outbound cold calling, whether it's just a personal assistant or a paralegal for a lawyer or a coach or what. And then that guy runs the team for them to get everything done that they need. So whether they're doing it for their business or doing it for their personal life, it's one charge for all that. And it comes down to this. These guys each work for just a few cents per hour. And I mean by a few cents, single digits. These guys work for single digit pennies per hour, 24/7. Okay? And they're always there. They're always available, and they always know the drill, because the knowledge base guy is always updating them whenever you make a change to the background information for everyone. How's that for nuts? So that on the one hand, the website structure on the other, to be able to create mass websites, to be able to make them awesome. The website component, we got far with that. We're creating incredible imagery, incredible videos with background music, videos where the characters can speak. Okay. And yes, the speech matches the lips. And it can be for any situations. And we auto-generate all this. We auto-generate the images, auto-generate the videos. We create the contents however we want. We make it varied from site to site however we want. It's really amazing. And so then also, you can marry them. So you can make the websites and then have the phone numbers on the websites integrate with this team, so that now when people are communicating online, it's deciding when to pass calls through to humans, when to answer the call directly. Anybody who still, as a matter of fact, here's one of the coolest things when people go, hey, when you're contacting companies and dropping voicemails, how do you even know who's using AI and who isn't? Well, one of the first points is all the companies that still have voicemail answering at 3 a.m. are not using their AI correctly. There should be no voicemail. Somebody should be answering the call at 3 a.m. AI for pennies on the dollar, pennies per hour. And AI can handle the needs of the person calling. And if that means they're calling from a distant land for some reason and they're speaking in their own language, AI should be able to immediately communicate with them in their language right then and there, and then fill out the forms or do whatever's necessary and send that to whoever. Send them a copy in their language and a copy in English. Same to everyone else that's involved. However the assistant's set up, whatever its main job is, isn't that neat? So this is really, really amazing. So let me just walk through some screenshots really fast to show you something. So if you're going through lots of templates, you wind up with this kind of idea. Look at that. You wind up with differentiation in the templates. And again, we're not creating the templates, but recreating the templates, but we're gleaning the ideas for that. And we do it with this. Talk about simplification at this level. Let me explain what this means. We extract themes. And if I go there, if I extract themes, okay, it'll be like this. We put in the URLs that we find out there and we give them names and say start bulk. And it will literally start creating or downloading the components that'll work for us from those themes so it can study them. Then what? Then we go ahead and create them into our websites that we put up, and we do all the steps. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even jump that far ahead. Let me go back. Okay. So then we convert it to our CMS. That's what Convert to Dynamic is all about. Then when they're converted, we can move them to a live admin panel, right? Where there's different templates on an admin panel. And then we run checks. So those checks save so much time. In the old days, we used to have a control in the admin panel, a little button for everything in the front end. Every section had its own background color, foreground color, font size, font family, place for an image. And all that stuff needs to be connected marker by marker in the back end so that if we change a color, it reflects on the front end. If we change an image, it changes. If we change a background color, it changes, in that section, right? In the old days, we had to check every connection one at a time by hand. Now we don't. This thing does it immediately. It checks all of it. It makes sure everything is connected. Everything on the front end should have a connection in the back end. Everything in the back end should have a connection in the front end. They should all match. Anything that doesn't match is given to us as a rapid list so that we can immediately go fix those independent things that it was not able to fix all by itself. How's that for crazy? This is something that we never had before, and this is the beginning of the streamlining. We've gotten several levels of, evolutions into it to make it better. It's just going to keep getting better. Eventually we're going to use AI to keep making the fixes for everything that's broken until one day it can do it all, I suppose. Images. We had fun with Nano Banana being a weird name, so we just started calling it something weird. Bana, just for the fun of it, just in-house programmer humor. Never mind. But when we go doing any of these things, like QA checks, it just checks the domains right then and there. Isn't that nuts? When we do images, it's cool. We put in the domains, put in the story we want to use for it to consider, so it understands the backdrop for the images. I'll give you an example really quick. If I just use some company idea out there and I say this is going to be that story, then this is just a backdrop, okay? Now, when it goes to make the images, it has to make the image work for each section of the website. Every little header where it needs an image next to the header needs to know what the header says. If we're talking about plastic cards, we could be talking about metallic cards, really, or cards with magnetic stripes, or transparent cards, or card printing, things like that, right? So the backstory is going to anchor down. We are talking about this company that does these things, not those things, delivers here, not there, whatever it is. It's the backstory. Here's our unique selling proposition. Now, that's the anchor. But as it generates images, it will look at each piece where it needs to put an image and create a corresponding image for that place, for that spot, which is smart. The images always match the sections they're in, page by page on the website, which is cool. Now, we can have it generate images on our own, or we can even drag up some samples so it gets the idea of exactly the kind of thing we want it to do. That way, if we had images with certain logos or trademarks, we could put that stuff up there and include that into the backstory concept and let it just understand that we want that concept in all the images. So we can be very specific, whether it should be JPEG or PNG. And it's all going to get switched anyway and optimized later. What the image size should be, we can deal with. Whether it's a new kind of an image or we're going to overwrite existing images, how often should the images appear going down the page? It's something we call a gap. There's different things to this, and even logos. We can generate the logos for the websites automatically, and they look great. They're really cool, and they match the backstory. Okay, so anyway, let me just continue and say, that's for images, right? Then we can generate all the images for the front end of the website with all the sections. Then we optimize all the images on the site, which is amazing because we just do that at the press of a button. Every image that used to be, we'd have to take a tool and convert it from JPEG to Webby and set the resolution, set the width, set the height of the image. Now we don't have to do any of that. It's optimized on the spot. Just like that. All the images on the site are optimized rapidly at the press of a button. We create the videos for the websites, and it works in a similar fashion. Domains. Are we going text to video or image to video? Okay. Describe the kind of video we want. What model do we want? Image to video has that. Text to video has a lot more. Okay. And then how long should the video be? What should the output be? The format, width and height, if we care. And then reference images if we want them, and generate the videos. And this goes all on the domains, right? So we're putting videos on the domains just like that. It's automatically generated, okay? Maximize the page speed. Oh, by the way, the images, they're simple little things meant to stoke excitement or interest. Here's an example of a sample image for that plastic card thing. The idea is encourage someone to realize, isn't it great when you have the plastic card you can hand over, the business card, right? So look at this simple little 8-second generated video. We generated a bunch of them, but this isn't even like particularly high quality or anything. We were just testing it out. Yeah, I mean, I can fade the music in, fade it out, and whatever. But the idea is, I told him, make it a transparent card, and have the people in the background, but the real focus is the card, right? And the handoff of the card and the smiling personas. I can have the people talk and say things, and the background music is auto-generated. Isn't that neat? So, while running these tools, they automatically make these websites so hot. That's the whole point. Then we maximize the page speed. We build it in. It's got all these rules. Put in the websites, analyze with Google PageSpeed. There's all this stuff to consider. Select the sets. Select the themes we need to optimize within each set. And then what are we going to do? There's all these different things to do and apply. And then convert user files to Webby, add htaccess coding for cache, things like that, all the stuff that just matters, right? And of course, we'll keep adding to this as we go, but it's great. So then we can check the page speed, right? And then by checking the page speed, we just put our stuff in here, and it's either check the mobile, desktop, or both, and go. Show us what they look like, the page speeds, right? All this stuff has been pretty much automated so that these operate in groups. So that's going to be really easy to train our AI manager. Hey, go create videos for this set of websites that are in the Google Drive file that are not yet marked as complete for images. Make sure to use a backstory where this happens. And the AI manager can ask us some leading questions to make sure it gets the gist, the drift, and then it can go through and do it. We can tell it, maximize page speed on all the sites that haven't been maximized yet, and then check it and mark and update the file in Drive so that we know where we stand. Tell us how many websites are still in the red, how many are in the green, blah, blah, blah. Then we got just checks. Check to make sure inner pages were created. Randomize the pages. What's that mean? That means when you create a bunch of websites, like 100, and they have 100 pages each, we don't want the top menu to just use the first 5 pages every time. Or, that's just kind of generic, right? All the websites have the same top 5 pages in the top menu. No, randomize. Don't put the terms and conditions up there, the privacy policy up there. Keep the home page first, but otherwise randomize which pages, and here's how many I want you to put in the top menu for this set and that set. Things like that. It's absolutely cool. So I can tell my AI manager at some point to randomize the pages on the websites in case that wasn't done. Check if there are placeholder images. When you're generating tons of images onto tons of pages on tons of websites super fast, 100 sites times 100 pages is 10,000 pages. Each page on average with 5 images is 50,000 images we need to make. They may not all get made. Sometimes you might get like an overlap problem or a throttling issue or a multi-threading issue, and you lose an image or 2 or 3, and you would have a hole in the page. Who wants to check 10,000 pages to see where the holes are? No one. So we made it possible to mark wherever the image didn't get created so that we can just go and deal with it and then fix it, like right on the spot. Grab those pages and make the images and fill them in. So we don't just rerun everything in case, and tell it to look for holes. Skip existing images. No, we don't need to waste our time. We just hit those few sites that have those few issues and fix them on the spot. Make content checker. There have been times that the global variables don't always get connected to the values on the front end for every single section. And we would see it later. We'd see tokens in the middle of the page where the information should really be filling in. It's kind of like when somebody sends you a really bad spam email. It says, hi, first name, da 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 da. And you're like, hey, it shouldn't say first name. It's supposed to say my name, right? Well, we'd find that would happen on occasion. Again, who wants to look at every page of every site, or something like that to make sure that that's not a problem? So this thing instantly checks all the pages just like that. Videos pop up. When we're pulling down all these themes from everywhere, some of them, the play buttons just go to YouTube or wherever the link is for the video. And you don't want that. You don't want it to just go to the MP4. You want it to stay on the page and have the video open in a lightbox. So in every single case where that doesn't happen, this immediately changes the coding to fix that. That's cool. Same with Font Awesomes. There are all these cool little buttons that have up arrows, next arrows, play buttons, an image for a phone, an image for, anything, right? It can be an image for anything, like a Call Us Now icon, right? Well, some of these are based on Font Awesome Set 6, which is the current standard for Font Awesome, but many people create their own stuff, or many people use other kinds of images. So when we're pulling down tons of themes, sometimes those buttons don't resolve properly. You just see a hole where there should be an image, of some kind. This will convert everything to the proper Font Awesome system so that everything can fill in and we automatically figure out what should be there. So we don't have that problem, right? So we do that with a content delivery network. So all the themes can handle the proper Font Awesomes. So that is so cool. I love it. Logo height. Ever see a logo and it's like super tall and it pushes the whole header down the page, like halfway down? So logo height instantly corrects that for all the logos in case any logos came out too big. It corrects the section to keep that from happening so that we don't have that problem no matter what the theme is, because some themes don't have controls for the logo box. And so a large image would just push it open. So we have controls for that. Anyway, this stuff is coming now. Along with the controls that we have here, take a look over here. Some of you guys recognize the layout of this command center, right? Digital control command center. And all these things are in groups. Okay, we have way more tools than we ever had before. And they're organized by sets of steps that work together, that need to be done together, or, where we would just go and get a list of things ourselves as a human because we want to. But otherwise, check this, check that, do this, do that, check this, check that. All this is here, okay? And they're all in their own sets. There are so many independent tools in here by now. It's a huge number. But if we're going to run TOS, theme option settings, we're going to run everything that relates to theme option settings all at once. And we know that. You wouldn't run the one tool without running the rest. So on, all the way down through these lists of tools, okay? Whatever they are, there are just so many, okay? Updating everything that needs to be updated. So all of this, again, just allows us to check and fix and troubleshoot and overcome any problems immediately. We have so many fix tools and repair tools and reset tools just to control any mistakes without having a human need to be involved, really, because we can run all the fix tools through an AI manager. So we can just run everything and make sure anything that was broken gets fixed. Isn't that neat? I mean, these are things that can be done. So we're working on it. We've even got stuff for server cleanup to regain lost space. Like if you upload a bunch of zip files and you extract them all, but then you don't need the zip files anymore. Server cleanup, one of the steps gets rid of the unnecessary zip files. Another one gets rid of error log buildup that you just don't need because it's old. You fixed everything already, but the error logs are still there. And if you have 100 sites with an error log that was like a megabyte each, then you'd have 100 megabyte worth of error logs gumming up your server, gumming up your cPanel even, and we can just delete it, But that works for a bunch of things at once to just deal with issues, right? debugging and troubleshooting. I mean, we just have this so under control so that everything is managed properly. Anyway, this is the stuff that's been taking us time. This is a chunk of it right here. Another chunk was just beating AI voicemail detection. And so the steps necessary for that, when I show you the screenshots, are crazy. It's just pages of training in the prompts and using the updated architecture tools that make all that possible. A lot of work, but a really powerful system. So what's that lead to? You know, using all these tools means we auto-generated all these sites. Right now, we can do 2 to 4 a day. Brand new sites from scratch, you know, and we can do more with time. But it used to take us like 3 days to do one, and then it would still have some issues we had to create new tools for. But now we can do typically 3 a day anyway. Okay, so that's crazy. And already page speed isn't even a question. Okay, so that's insane. I mean, we're not just creating the site, we're mastering it within a few hours. Okay, that's how far we've come with this. And it's crazy because scores like this cost thousands of dollars, take lots of time, you know, for programmers generally, and you have to go one site at a time to do it. But we made a system that allows us to grab any templates from around the internet, put them into our CMS, explode them up, and then forcibly make them incredible, you know, in terms of things like page speed, which is huge because Google prizes that and it beats your competitors down. We did that with a stack of websites recently, and even a log with just 5 days. Already we're getting page views on these sites just like that. I mean, it's some more than others for whatever reason, but it's happening just like that. And it's because of the quality of the sites. Okay, just out of the blue. Okay, so this is so cool. We're moving forward with all this so fast. Images. I love the way we can, you know, ask for images, like with our backstory written correctly. And the images come out so well for each section of the site. Absolutely beautiful, powerful images. Look at this. Plastic Card ID does what? They do custom plastic cards and printing solutions. Okay. So here's like the idea of a transparent business card with a name and an address and everything. And here's the different kinds of cards that they do. Okay. And it's on a transparent card. And you can see the guy's finger shape behind the card and also the press, the indentation of his finger on the card. Same with his thumb down here. This card is pushing into his thumb. Not only that, you can see a fingerprint. You can literally see the fingerprints and the you know, knuckles and the marks and the way his nail is cut. And it's not perfectly clean. It's quite clean, just not perfectly clean. And it's against some backdrop that feels like a proper office, right? This was auto-generated, okay? And it came from this right here, the story, right, is the backdrop story, the backstory, okay? Isn't that neat? And then when we create the little films, we tell it, hey, make it like this, okay? And that's exactly the sort of thing we did to create that little 8-second video I was showing you, okay? We can make longer videos that are more involved. Anyway, yeah, this video here, right, comes from prompts like the one I just showed you. All right, so we come back in here and we pick up where we left off, converting these for the top level steps. Like even domain purchasing is fine, that works. But the top level steps that allow us to be able to run these things eventually through voice. So then when it goes through voice, that's really awesome. Since this is the other side of the house, right? This is called an AI army. When somebody decides that they want to get their own AI army for an employee, the employee would talk to the guy in the middle, let's say. That's the manager. The guy in the middle sends the independent tasks, like to the email sender to send an email, And then it can send you back to the main assistant, who will also see what else you need. Oh, you need a quick web search? You want us to look something up real fast on the internet and then tell you the answer? Boom. Oh, you need us to do deep research? Create a report that takes maybe 10 minutes and send it back to you by email or whatever, or upload it to your Google Drive? No problem. And then it comes back. Oh, you need us to schedule an appointment with this guy, a meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m. with the prospect to go over whatever it is and then alert that prospect about the meeting. And you, yeah, no problem. So then that'll happen and send you back. Oh, you need advanced deep research. You need us to really create a competitive report and come up with the next steps to improve your website for you to make it automatically competitive with your top competitors. Got it. It might take half an hour to create that entire report and send it by email or upload it to your Google Drive file or whatever. No problem. What else do you need? Oh, you're going to update your knowledge base covering everything in the background about your company. Knowledge base would be where you put all this stuff and all this stuff and your products and your services, your prices, your bundles, how you do discounts, when you do holidays, whatever it is, so that all this stuff is understood real quick. And you can always update it. You can even call in and ask your assistant to transfer you and create one. It can ask you questions about it. Man, I don't know what to tell you. The value of assistants like this is insane. You can have your main assistant be for a form that you offer on your website for getting a quote that might have a bunch of fields. And what'll happen is, instead of someone having to fill it in, they could fill in the paperwork or they could call the number. And when they call the number, they're talking to the assistant. And the assistant will ask them questions about each field and they'll just talk out their answers. In cases where that works for forms, and for many companies that does work, okay, then they can just do the form over the phone. And then the form will create the paper version, so to speak, the print version, and either upload it to a Drive file or email it to somebody who needs it. Okay? And that's cool because say the guy was talking in a different language, then it can work with him in that language. You didn't need to reproduce the forms in different languages. The guy can just talk to that assistant on the phone and immediately start talking in their own language. The assistant will catch on immediately and then go asking them the questions in their language, fill out the form, and create two versions of the form. The version in their native language and the comparative in English, and send both copies to that guy and both copies to you, or whoever needs to receive it at whatever email address, or if it's uploaded somewhere. And then that guy's notified that the form came in, okay, so that they can deal with it. Isn't that neat? Because you don't need someone to sit on the phone to handle it for customer support. You could have a call come in from halfway around the world at 3 a.m. and the form will be done by the time the guy gets to work. Not just that, but 50 calls could come in from different countries at the same time in different languages, and they'll all get handled at once. And all those forms will be ready when the guy comes in. And all those guys will have their copy of the form in both languages. And all that happens super fast. You could be a lawyer and need your paralegal to do research on something. You could need your paralegal to look something up real fast on the internet. You could ask your assistant to send an email to the new client you just got, thanking them for putting their trust in you, and you're going to work to the best of your ability on their case and get them off or try. And you can set your appointments and stuff. The coolest thing is you can do it over the phone while you're driving. You don't need to go and sit down behind a computer to work with your assistant. You call in on a regular phone number. And that can be in your area code, especially if you want other people to be able to call your assistant and talk to it. It just depends on what you set your assistant up to do, right? How's that for neat? So this entire army is costing single-digit pennies per hour for each of these guys. Single-digit pennies per hour, single-digit pennies per hour, single-digit pennies per hour for each of these guys. 24/7 they're available though. So if you wake up at 2 in the morning and you forgot to do something important, you can call in and work with your assistant and get that thing done and roll back to sleep and not worry. Okay? And this is true for anyone who gets on the system. Now, if you think about it, we have the best website generation system in mass for any companies, and then for all of the business it generates, all of the activity it generates, all of the back-end work that your employees now have to do. Normally would have to hire more people. You don't need to hire more people, just outfit them. And then by outfitting them, they can do so much more work more efficiently with no issues. How's that for cool? All right. Now, 2 more things I want to point out just so you can see it, and then I'll be done with this. One is this. This is what it looks like in the back end with the websites. Remember how I said, okay, just to be clear. Remember how I said we have all these checks, different checks, right? So we make sure there are no issues. What about the rest of the checks for SEO and stuff? This is the coolest thing. We can say, give us a single downloadable file with all of the websites times all of the pages on the website. So what are those pages, fully? Now, for each page on each website, that could be 100 websites times 100 pages. There'd be 10,000 rows in this file, okay? This can go down however deep. It doesn't matter. How many words are on each page? And you can sort by that column. So you can make sure all the pages have enough words on them, that none of the pages got broken or came up short, right? We can sort by this column, data, sort Z to A to Z, highest to lowest, right? Make sure none of these have a weird count like 20,000 words on the page. That'd be weird, 10,000 words on the page. But that they also don't just have 200 words on the page. There'd be a problem there, right? Going along with that, how many header section 2s, right? Like if you think the outline of a page has the main title for the whole page, it's your H1, then you have H2s going down the page. And within each of those H2s, you have some paragraphs, and you might have H3s, the subsections. So how many H3s do we have on each page? We can make sure we have proper organization. What if you had 3,000 words on the page, but you only had one H2 and no H3s? There's a problem, right? There's something structurally wrong with the page. Go rewrite the page. What about the paragraph count, right? What if it just wrote it all as one big fat paragraph? In the old days, these used to get messed up a lot. Now they don't really, but we still track them, in case there's any other problem, like a multi-threading issue caused a couple pages to drop off. We can just make sure we don't have any bad pages. Did we enable the sidebar for the pages? Yes or no? Did we enable related pages? Again, I could sort. So I could get all the no's at the top, yeses at the bottom. And what I'll see is it's certain domains where that didn't get flipped on yet. Every time I run the report, it'll just show me what the latest report is for everything. I can sort and make sure everything's done. Okay. What about table of content being flipped on? Yes or no? What about whether there's a welcome pop-up? Maybe we don't want a welcome pop-up. Okay, so no. But we do want the exit pop-up, so yes. It really just depends, right? What about the CTA? Call to action bar that scrolls up and down on the page. Did that get produced on all the pages or not? So on and so forth. So there are all these checks, right? And it verifies for SEO and it verifies for all the things we really care about. And so we can just go through real fast and verify that thousands and thousands of pages across hundreds of websites have been handled properly for all our checks. Okay, so that's one thing I want to show you. That's huge, right? That's a really, really big deal. The other thing I wanted to show is on the call side, because now we're starting to start up live calls where our AI is chatting with live companies. Yes, the demos work and they work great. Yes, somebody can even say on the phone, hey, can you call me back in 15 minutes? And it'll call them back in 15 minutes and it'll know what we were going to talk about. Okay. You could have it set an appointment. You could have it look something up. You could have it do a competitor report. You could have it set an appointment. You could have it answer some fun questions. You could have it advise you on something. You could have it explain itself, and what the project is. If they're interested in the demo enough that they want to get involved, how do they start? Here's how you start. And then everything is made super easy. So anybody can get on a subscription, then they call in, verify their subscription, and they can immediately explain what they want for their AI army, their little personal team for each of their teams, right? And then that will set it up and send them an email with a phone number and the area code that they wanted, okay? Or the closest area code to them if there is no phone number available in that area code that they wanted, right? But it's all automated, okay? And then for cold calling, yes, we do things like swap the number out whenever the performance drops because we watch for that. So we have one of the few systems that doesn't have spam likely and scam likely happening, because the moment that starts to appear as a standard is something going wrong, our system changes out the numbers so that our performance always stays up. Our phone numbers are always showing where they're from. They're not showing spam likely or scam likely. None of that's happening with us, like so many other systems out there. And you know it because you get those calls all the time. So what I wanted to say about this was we just have so many functions here that allow us to evaluate everything about every call so that we can know exactly what is going on with the calls and how they're coming out. And we have AI evaluating all the calls, right? Inbound calls we check. Independent stats on calls we check. Outbound, we have stats on things. Inbound, we have stats on things. Anybody wants to be put on a do not call list, we keep it. So yeah, believe it or not, we are polite and careful, right? Smart with people. And by the way, business to business, there's no such thing as a do not call list. Believe it or not, companies do not get to request to be on a do not call list. They do all the time. They ask you not to call them back. But you're not required to by law to comply. However, of course, you would just go ahead and put them on a do not call list, because why waste your money calling them? Executive dashboards letting us know all of these different things that we care about and how it went from our one date to another, and whether we got better at the thing or worse at the thing, what our target is, whether we're looking healthy or whether we still have issues to attend to, and whether it looks like we're on the right track. Voicemail squads tells us everything for like top failure reasons. It's the biggest thing to check with voicemails. What are the failures? How many calls had failures? What is the rate of that? Because again, we can set our dates, our to and from, and how many calls happened there, and how many had problems. Okay, and then we can look at the technical issues related to that. We can look at secondary issues. So we can go and improve our system constantly because we are never caught off guard, right? We are always aware of how things are happening. We built all this stuff recently. Main assistant, forget the voicemail. What about live calls? When were calls cut short? When did the prospect hang up and decline? When did they want to call back? That's a good thing, right? How many demos were shown? Well, that's good. If you're only expecting a 1% conversion rate where somebody goes, sure, I want a demo, then that's beautiful. If you get 176 calls versus 2 where somebody wanted in, out of like 250 calls, you got 2 or so, you're close to where you want to be. Onboarding, transfer, email sent, that kind of thing, right? Prompt violations. What are the things that went wrong? How many percentage-wise, what can we do about that? We'll go back and look, right? Secondary minor issues, So we track it all. That way we can constantly improve this thing as we go, right? And raw data is just giving us a lot of raw data that helps us see what's going on. Pretty soon we'll have AI constantly self-tweak and self-improve so that we don't even have to step in as humans anymore. We're not there yet, but the fact that we have so much control that we know what's happening and what we need to watch out for. This whole low thing deals with the main assistant success rate. We've been working on voicemail a lot more than live calls because we just wanted to get that perfected first, since it's a really big deal. So that's why our voicemail stuff is in better shape than our main assistant. But that's okay. Main assistant's next on the list. This is what we're working on next. So we'll get that too. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to show you the amount of power that we have to route to people is huge. Now, what's that have to do with all you guys who are in on this? Anybody running the websites, pay for websites, that becomes a rental. All right, so they'll either pay a monthly or discounted annual, and that feeds back to you guys who are in on this. Anyone who wants to use the command control center to make their own sites, right? They're middlemen making their business, making sites for other companies en masse. Okay, we have that as an option we have for a long time now, the Digital Command Control Panel, DCCP package, which is available on website-installer.com. For all of you guys who are in on this, we can give you a huge discount on that. It does cost because it is expensive. Well, it has to be run. That means we generate content, generate images, generate videos. There are domains. It takes up room on the servers. The cost for the cPanels is a cost. But the fact of the matter is, those of you who are in on this can get a better deal on that. Way better deal, okay? And I'll talk about that sometime later. I don't know how many of you guys are interested in having access to that, but for those of you who are, for your own uses or ours, because investors often don't want to do things, they just want to be floating in the background to get a share of what's going on. All you guys who got positions, right? Position holders, rather. I shouldn't say investors, I should say position holders, because you're not investors, you're position holders. And you know what's going on there. But then some of you guys always reach out to me and go, can I get access to the tools? I got these either wild ideas, or I have a bunch of clients, or I want to expand something and I need that. And so get a hold of me, okay? And I'll let you know what's going on there, because that's cool. Huge update, 52 minutes, right? Already in this recording. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bust off of this thing. And start getting this ready to let you guys know what's going on. It's huge. That's what I wanted to say. So this is a cost item where people are paying, and that's meant to be a recurring monthly or discounted annual, but it's recurring nonetheless. And then on the other hand, there's the whole voice system, the entire idea of having these for your employees instead of paying for new employees. Just superpower the employees you have, make their work easier, make them far more productive, and it only costs you like an extra $100 or $200 per month per employee, depending on just how far you go with the features, with the squad. But there you have it. That's amazing, right? To be able to get each employee to be dramatically more effective. Even your worst employees can be among your best employees, and everyone gets to look great. And that means that we're not using AI to replace employees, because we believe employees know the business better than AI can. But we're using AI to supplement their work, make their work far better for just the tiniest amount of extra cost. And it's just a huge advantage to the company owner, right? To be competitive. Pretty soon, all employees in all companies are going to have AI assistants, right? There will be very few exceptions. Even the guy who's a roofer on the field sometimes has questions about, what do I do with this weird shape in the roof, or this weird setup or situation in the roof, or where somebody else set something up, but I don't think that's up to code. Is it up to code? They can call the AI assistant that can actually help them over the phone right then and there without having to talk to a live human. They don't need to. They can call the AI tech and get the answers right away that a human might even have to look up and be wrong about. The AI tech will be right, probably to always. Things like that are getting better constantly, and so pretty soon it's going to be a gimme that this is what's happening. Anyone who's not doing this, their costs are going to be too high. What they offer the public will cost too much. The amount of work and payments they have to make will cost too much. Using employees that are backed by AI teams will cost a lot less to the company in the long run than having a bunch of humans and hiring more humans with no one having AI assistants to back them, to be their own. And you know how cool it is for every employee when you give them a team of 7 geniuses who know everything about the internet, well, have learned everything out there, and they're standing by to help you with anything you need. And so there's 7 guys all working together to make your life easier. And that's true for every key employee in your company. Then yeah, that's a subscription basis. People are paying by the month or a discounted annual. And so all this feeds back to all of you position holders because these are the 2 things we're putting out there. And if they get them together, these can work together, like on their sites as well. Okay, so it's like just a super powered version of this because not only will there be the team for the employees, there will be a team managing the site, and answering the calls and feeding everything to live people when necessary, dropping stupid calls when unnecessary, or cutting off spam calls when pointless, but knowing what to do in every case. And so no more need for voicemail. When we're calling around in the middle of the night and hit voicemail, those are companies that are not using AI properly yet, and they need to be using us. And that's still like 90% of companies we reach out to. It's crazy. All right. There you go. Crazy update. I'll start putting out more videos now that we're finally done with development. We're just starting to put stuff out, put demos out, and show what we got in market, darn it, so that we can get cash flow. So that you guys can start to earn. We can start to earn. And anyone else who wants access to the tools can get their hands on it because it works now. These things are working really well, finally. So anyone who wants in, let me know. Let me know what your interests are. Some of you already have. You've been waiting for me to respond, and I'm finally going to get back to you now. So check your places where you've been getting a hold of me because I'll finally be reaching back out through those channels and getting a hold of you back about your requests for, what do we have available? Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Can't believe I finally got an update out and can't believe we're finally here and we're finally ready to roll. Okay. Talk to you soon.